Last but not least, we have two gentlemen that I love to torture at every possible turn. Please welcome our lab rats, Michael Jones and Gavin Free. Michael, you're going to have to do that all the way into the light.
He put all the weight on my neck. Oh, God.
I was like a pencil on your back.
But didn't drop the drink or the switch.
Nice.
All right, well, Will or Blaine, you guys have something that you want to start the panel off with to show us?
Well, so we thought that since we haven't been all together, well, we haven't talked about Immersion in a while, at least with me, and Season 4 was last year, and we've done some Immersion since, but I wanted to put together a little montage to remind us all of the fun we had together last year.
And I just want to say, there's a reason why we haven't all been together, you in particular, why we haven't been all together to work on Immersion, is that Daniel, after directing a season and showrunning Immersion, was named as the co-director of Laser Team 2, which we... So that's the pathway at Rooster Teeth, apparently. If you annoy Michael and Gavin a day at a time, you get to do it then a month at a time.
I do attribute partially me getting Laser Team 2 was because of our relationship and my ability to torture these guys. Our relationship was private, Daniel.
Gavin, we've been upgraded to a relationship.
Now they know. Anyway, roll the tape.
Welcome to Season 4 of Immersion. Today, we've come out to our Rooster Teeth Ballroom Simulator, come out today to our Rooster Teeth Biological Warfare Research Facility, to our Rooster Teeth Test Canyon,
Post-Apocalyptic Simulation Center,
Indoor Athletic Complex, to our Rooster Teeth Archival Facility, Rooster Teeth Emergency Medical Center.
We're fucked. You can't drive this.
This is so bad.
Oh, God. I'm gonna fucking puke, man.
Oh, God. I got the heart.
Yep.
I got the heart.
Get this out.
This is stop. It's covering me, man.
Dude, this is getting sore.
Oh, Michael, they're on my arsehole here. Oh, God. Oh, son of a bitch.
Hey.
Oh, here, Gabriel.
Hey, I get the crowbar.
Oh, it's working.
Damn, dude. Kill it.
Edge. Hammer.
Get out of my way. I've seen a suspicious individual around here. There's a guard sick back there.
If I do, don't mind if I don't.
They're a bird! Holy shit, she's already up.
Did I get her?
It doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it.
I'm not getting her.
We have one bullet left, just so you know. Oh, she's coming. You see this, Gav?
Yeah. Oh,
got her.
That was amazing.
Oh my God. Gavin, stop. I saw something earlier.
You could have made me throw up. A salad?
I don't know why this was in here, but I'm assuming it's because of this.
What is that?
There's a great...
I threw up again.
Michael, don't.
Why would you do that?
Because it was a grape. People love grape.
We're good. We're good. Take cover. Get a bomb, dude. Oh, flip it out.
You know, in watching that reel too, there's so many little moments of things that I kind of had forgotten that don't make the final edit always. And one of the things in particular is, I think I saw somebody down their point when they saw it, but when the warthog flipped over, you actually see a little rock that was like Marcus's fulcrum for that, where he had a little rock, and the warthog would drag if we didn't have that there, but if it just had that tiny little, like, small stone, it would then flip over. And then there was a really cool moment when the warthog was rotating. Blaine, I don't know if you have anything footage like this, but when it was rotating all the way around, it landed on the far side tires, and it landed so hard in one of the tests that it pulled the tire away from the rim and like exploded all the air that was in there and like sent this huge dust cloud flying.
Yeah, we had to, I think some people commented on it, but we had to edit, we did 4 takes of the flip, and because we had to dial up, you see it in the BTS where you have to dial up the pressure to make sure it's correct. And I think at the end, I forget what the final thing was, Marcus, but at the end I told our effects supervisor just full beans. Just like give it as much as you want to try and make it spin the whole way, and that's when the
Too many beans.
Too many beans.
I think it landed,
it flipped over.
The tire exploded, and then it went over again, back to where it started.
And Gavin was on the Phantom, and we kept moving you around, and it was like, I was like, I want the wheel, and you're like, well, that's hard to, like, you were doing a really good job of tracking it, and then it popped in the
that's in the
take.
footage. I don't think it's in the episode, but I do have phantom footage of that tire exploding. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then in the Hitman one that was in the montage as well, I forgot that Gavin had a platinum blonde wig on, first thing. And when I saw it, I was like, I don't remember Trevor being in that episode.
That's one of my favorite shots from the whole season is in that episode. It was where Michael and I were discussing, I had to take out Tyler. And then Michael was just like,
I mean, you didn't have to.
well, we decided on it.
We decided.
And then you were like, give me a signal when you've done it. So I was just like, I did it! And I do a thumbs up right as I'm walking out, and you just see my thumb come into frame. It's my favorite shot.
Also, the beginning of that episode was one of the many times on the set that I got aggravated with Gavin, because I had to do my intro walking down those red carpeted stairs, the ballroom stairs, but I have to look at the camera while I'm walking down, so I'm walking downstairs blind, and they're all different lengths because the stairs get bigger and bigger as the ballroom approaches. And of course, the first 2 times, I busted my ass and fell down the stairs, and which made Michael and Gavin laugh for about 5 minutes straight. But then the entire rest of the time I'm doing the introduction, all I hear is Gavin in the background doing this. Waiting for me to fall again.
Or it would just be like, it went from you would trip to you would just like step down loudly. It would be like, and Gavin would go.
Well, it wasn't that. It was like, you were nailing the takes eventually, but sometimes you'd hit a step really hard, and you'd be like, here we are at Immersion. Made me piss myself.
Then I remember, because we couldn't see him when he was near the top of the steps, it was like around the corner. There was one take where Burnie, after doing that several times, I don't remember exactly what you did. We were coming down the stairs and you were like, oh! Like you made like a noise like you fell. No one checked to see if you were okay. I remember just going, and I just didn't move. And he's like, no, I'm just fucking with you.
Have we ever put out an outtakes compilation from Immersion?
We
We should.
We haven't. We
There's
should.
some gold in there.
I think our editor Sarah last season definitely blocked those off, and we do have those bloopers somewhere.
I think we have an entire season of Immersion from the outtakes of Fallout. Just 2 episodes.
And I know if you're not screwing with Burnie, you would screw with me sometimes, because I remember on Destructibles we had this like not too complicated, but we always like to do that like crane shot with Burnie, and we're like going through the walls, and then we land on Michael and Gavin waiting, and we're on the 3rd take, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be the one. We're running behind, but this is going to be the one. And we get to where Gavin and Michael are supposed to be, and they're just gone. And I'm looking at my monitor, I'm like, what the, where are they? And they're just hiding behind the pots in the Zelda room. Like, God damn it, back to 1.
I feel like we're not so easy to work with.
Also, I mean, we do it all the time, but I think the ultimate one was in Hitman, when we both decided to kill each other right at the beginning, and it's like a 30, 40-minute reset every time we do it, because it was last year from RTX.
Who was there at the Hitman?
Yeah.
There you
yeah.
go.
So we had like a couple hundred extras. I mean, it was insane how many people were there.
Yeah, we had 200 or so, and that was the first one that me and Blaine co-directed.
Yeah.
Blaine's idea, and we executed it. It was so big. That was such a big one that we had to work together.
I do remember, though, when we heard, like, they're dead, and we're like, what? And we were, like, looking at each other, and, like, Michael and Gavin are just laying on the ground, and they're like, we pranked you. And we're like, fuck, reroll cameras. Just like another 30 minutes later, then they reset.
We had no idea because that whole immersion, me and Blaine were up in the balcony in this little section. We didn't have monitors to see what you two were doing. We just had to look around, and we had a spy following you. We had a second assistant director following you guys, blending in, just radioing in like, okay, they're going after the champagne now. Michael's wait, he's gonna kill Tyler, you know, and like just telling us beat by beat. So we had no idea what you were doing.
They had told me about it beforehand, and then you guys were so confused, and I was like, oh yeah, they wanted to prank you guys, and then you just were standing there so confused, no idea what to do next.
Yeah, we actually asked Will because we didn't really know the reset time, so we were like, Will, how much of a pain in the ass would it be if...
So 30 minutes isn't a threshold.
No, Will was like, kind of a pain in the ass.
Well, it wasn't a pain in the ass for me, it was just for these two guys, so it was fine.
I like that one, I think it was you or Blaine, but in the behind the scenes, it's like, oh, they killed each other. It wasn't really the reaction we were hoping for.
It made me laugh, so I was fine with it.
Yeah.
My favorite part about that, too, was I threw myself over a table filled with water. Like, it was just water glasses all over, and I just dove across it as I died, so I just completely soaked my outfit, and then we reset and started over again, where I'm walking off the elevator, and just for, like, continuity, because I do this in everything I'm in. I don't even know what's in the video. We walk off the elevator, and I go, can you believe that guy spilled all over me?
I think
I'm
that's
wet.
in the episode.
I'm wet for no reason.
That might be in the episode, I think. Yeah.
Does I think it might be interesting. I don't know. Does anybody have a favorite episode up through Last of Us, starting like, or favorite moment from the seasons that? My favorite moment. I'll start. My favorite moment, and why I put it in that clip show, is when we were doing Surgeon Simulator. Is just setting up edible food for Michael to eat inside the stomach.
Awful.
And I went to him before we started because I didn't want them to see the set beforehand. I didn't explain anything. I just told them, like, wait here, you know, there's going to be these kind of valves and you have these tools. Just do whatever you want. I think we only had to, like, pause one time for a camera problem. But I told Michael, just check the drawer. Just check the drawer and and check the stomach. And he just went to town. And I loved it so much.
So wait, did you know it was edible?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's food. Food's edible.
Marcus made me.
Why would they put something
I'll
edible?
tell you, it didn't make it
was
any better.
oatmeal, cranberries, pecans, corn, of course, because you had to have
Corn.
You had to have like little bits of corn in there. You had to have recognizable objects so that you could be grossed out by it. Couldn't just be mush.
And grapes.
Let me tell you,
Yeah. And grapes. Yeah.
Did you taste test it at all, Marcus?
No, I mean, I knew it would taste okay. So.
I feel like immersion is mainly Marcus convincing me that stuff is edible. Like we had to.
Oh, the toilet?
We had to drink toilet water in
Yeah.
immersion. You're like, it's a brand new toilet. It's just like brown water that's colored to be brown. I
I'm
was
fairly
like,
certain that was the very top of my priority list for things that we wanted to have in the Fallout immersion.
Why?
Was a dirty toilet that you had to drink out
People
of.
drink out of the water in that game.
Yeah.
I will say though, that was the moment when, because Meg fucked me up and I like bashed my leg in, right? So I had my leg tied like to my arm. So while the toilet bowl was brand new and it was like edible food inside of it, it was in a disgusting, incredibly old building that had chipping paint all over the wall.
Yeah.
And I was leaning on the wall because I didn't have my other arm, scraping paint chips into the toilet every
Yeah.
take. I'd lean in the Gavin and be like, "Don't eat those chunks." That's lead, right?
And
there.
that
this
was
place,
bad.
the place where we shot was like an insane asylum that got shut down in the 40s. So
Yeah.
that was all lead paint, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it
And
was.
asbestos.
And asbestos, yeah.
The really creepy part about that day, too, was that was a perfect set. I remember we all walked onto that set, and we realized we couldn't make something this cool that looked like it was post-apocalyptic like that. But then there were all these, they just like abandoned ship, and everybody just left one day. And there were all these files, do you remember, of patients? And there was like, somebody started reading like case studies or whatever, and everyone got super creeped out.
Yeah,
because we're in this
the
like
place is
old
super
building reading these case studies, you know? And Barbara was like, please stop doing that.
Yeah, the whole place is super creepy, and everything you see is authentic. All that paint's real. It really has been flaking there for 40 or 50 years. And the toilet water was prune juice, regular water, squirt of chocolate syrup, corn.
These all sound tasty. Like they don't seem like they taste that bad. Like they're like breakfast with Marcus.
It wasn't so bad. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it just has to look gross, but it needs to taste normal. So, because there's enough motivation just from the visual that Gavin usually is, it doesn't take a whole lot.
I mean, there's something built into the human brain, or at least mine, that just says don't drink anything out of a toilet. Weird. Just don't do that, even if it's a delicious, lovely orange juice. Don't do it.
Marcus does a really good job, though, while safe and edible, still disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, I knew, Daniel didn't go into detail, but he's like, it's edible. You can see me gagging as I'm eating that shit. It was still disgusting, but I pushed through because I needed to get the reaction out of you.
Yeah, no, you can. We
I'm
definitely in the actual edit, Michael takes another like 30 seconds to a minute of still going, like trying to get the bigger reaction out of you, and I was so happy that you did. It was like he just kept working at it.
Well, and going back to the question that you asked, Daniel, like what's our favorite? I think I love all of the immersions because it's just these are a lot of times are things that I just we wanted to see these things in real life and wanted to figure out, and so to walk onto the set and actually see that thing in real life was always a really cool experience. But I think my favorite probably has to be the simulation racer, the racetrack one, because it was the first time we used Gavin and Michael as lab rats, and we were doing just like funny stuff like trying to psych them out, and I remember I gave them a bag, and they said, what's this for? It's in case you throw up. And we were laughing about that, just like, don't know if that'll make the edit. And then we're listening on the audio as they're racing around. We didn't have a video feed that we could watch. We can only hear it. And I hear Michael go, and I was like, what was that? And so he goes, I think Michael just threw up. And I go, this is going to be the best episode ever.
Whenever Michael throws up, there's like fluid coming out, and you'll get the occasional bubble, but the bubble is filled with his voice.
Yeah.
It's like every bubble bursting is like a yell from Michael. It's phenomenal.
Like a combination between a yell and a vomit is what he does.
I love that it came out. I was like loading the bag. I was in the back seat at the time. You were in the front. I remember just like throwing up the bag and then going just like this. Holding it up, and you were turning your head going, oh! This was like right next to you.
And then I went to grab my bag, and it got sucked out the window. Yeah. I think my favorite moment from Immersion so far was when, in NBA Jam, my head caught on fire a little bit, but you got up.
Yeah.
And then it was at that moment I learned that you were concerned for my health.
The one
it was a nice moment.
That's called acting.
I want to be clear. It was one moment. That was it. I used it all up. People actually, I got called out in the comments for faking that. And that was definitely legit.
Definitely, we actually almost, in the first rough cut, because we're always concerned about what to show or what not to show, if it's serious, but like the first cut didn't have it. We like tried to skip past it.
Yeah.
And when, I remember we were sitting with Chris Damaris and watching it, and he was just like, no, that's the best thing. And we actually tried to like elongate it a little bit, but that's totally real. Nothing, we almost shut, it was one of those scary moments where I had to go to Will and Burnie and just be like, we're good, we're gonna continue. This is like everything, we dipped his head in water, he's safe. There was just a bucket of water that we got him to.
It was scary.
I really liked the Destructibles, just because it was like, there's all the crazy complex immersions, like Surgeon Simulator had to be one of those complicated ones, and then we put it in the back of an ambulance, so it was like even crazier. And then Destructibles is like, really cool sets, just break shit, just smash it, just break everything. That was a lot of fun. I also liked the Banana Peel immersion. That was like a classic one with Mario and Luigi.
Oh, when you flipped.
When I flipped the go-kart on the one take, I forgot to buckle my seatbelt. So when I hit the ground, my shoulder hits the ground, and I'm scraping across the ground out of the car. So everyone's like, don't move, and like I'm just sitting there, I'm like, good. Everybody runs over. They pick the cart up, and I'm on the floor because I'm not connected to it. It just goes like around me, and I'm just like, oh, guess I forgot to put my seatbelt on.
I have no idea how you didn't dislocate your shoulder on that. Even watching the footage now, it's just amazing to me. You guys are lucky. You guys were way too charmed.
I remember because I was doing Phantom on that turn, and I asked you before, I was like, are you going to go for it? And you were like, I'm going to absolutely go for it. So I knew he was going to flip it. Like, we'd had, like, some close calls. I absolutely knew he was going to just flip that thing. He went all out.
It was pretty cool.
Great. It was a great stunt.
We had a similar conversation. Sorry, Brandon.
I was just saying, I really have to give it to these two because you guys do that on set all the time. You know, we all work to try to come up with something, you know, like the Destructibles one, the inspiration for that just basically came from, in Half-Life, hitting a crate with a crowbar 3 times and it just flies apart. And it's those moments you have in gaming where you're like, oh, that's stupid. But then they think, oh, it is stupid. I wonder if we could, what it would be like to watch these two idiots bang on a crate with a crowbar in real life. And then we go through and we design some things. Daniel and Blaine took that, Daniel in particular, and turned it into this whole course with the Zelda pots and the Rainbow Six thing and everything else. But then, you know, after all the work that we do, these two show up, and it's like they add stuff in all the time. Like, we'll get to the end of a run or something like that, and they'll want to do it again, like do it the second run, and they'll always want to amp it up in some way or like want to take it to the next level. And I always appreciate what you guys bring. You guys are, you guys don't care about your safety in any way whatsoever, and I love that.
It's content.
Also, it's like, you know, we're Immersion in most cases. We're there one day.
You know what your tombstone's going to say on it? It's content.
Yeah, man, film it.
This is still content.
It's okay. I filmed it.
And then a link to the YouTube video.
Just Burnie talking about, like, you know, the weeks and sometimes months that go into planning the immersions. And it's not even just like, oh, let's come up with an idea and do it. You know, there's also like a lot of them are like there's sponsors involved. So there's like a lot of like, you know, discussions back and forth. It's not just like we just do whatever we want and that's it. You know what I mean? There's like a ton of work that goes into it. And then Gavin and I get there and it's like, don't fuck it up. Like, now everything relies on the next 6 hours. So weeks of work are down the drain. You just kind of suck. So it's pretty easy for me.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for us.
110%.
Because you guys have to like get it all in place and like think of all the possibilities. And we get there and then it's like, we'll plan to do a few things. But like, you basically just throw us into a playground. Right. And then we can do whatever we want. But I remember, we'll try and add some things. Like I remember in Resident Evil with the different cameras, I just came up with, we should try and high five before we start every one and see how difficult it is to like illustrate how insane it is to watch yourself from a different perspective. And I was like using the angles to reload while you were killing people in the back.
Yeah, that's why it's like in that one clip, it's the same vision and it's you just standing in front of the camera trying to reload the gun, and that's also what I'm seeing. And I'm like 20 feet back, and I'm just watching you go like this.
Yeah, but I'm trying to like sidestep.
Shoot, I think Jessica was coming out of the room, which also you went in first, fired all your bullets, and then just ran out because you missed it.
Look, we each bring different things to the game, you know.
That was the first idea I ever pitched Burnie when I wanted to direct an episode way back when we did Five Nights. And because I went to him, I was like, I want to do Resident Evil. And he was like, well, I want you to do Five Nights instead. And so I went back and kind of came up with that one. But it's so much fun to come up with just like, okay, we're going to figure out the technology behind the 3-camera setup and then just let you guys go into it. I have nothing planned except for the zombies come at this point or, you know, the props. I work with Marcus a lot to like come up with the different aspects and toys that you guys can play with. And then, yeah, you're right. It's just like hope. It's just like, no, they'll be funny. You know, I think I give very little direction usually on the day. It's usually
only if it's like Resident Evil, for example. If we're like fucking around forever and you're like, the key is behind you. We're like, oh, we do need to move along.
Hey,
that's
idiots.
About it.
It's sundown.
We just hit overtime for everybody on the crew.
Speaking of Marcus, what is the process like for you from an art perspective, like when we come with a ridiculous idea?
I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, that's my job, but it's also what I like to do. So it's pretty cool. And you guys usually have something that's, you know, already kind of has a design that's already built in. It's a game that we can go to and look at, and we already know the mechanics, and it's kind of already laid out for us, which is nice because usually we're having to kind of invent that on our own, or if we're working with a script from Raw, then we've got to insert that ourselves. But this one's fun for me because I don't have to guess. You know, I can go take screenshots. I can go play the game.
Do you have a favorite one that you've worked on?
I think it was Surgeon Simulator. I know we talked about that a lot already, but that one was just sort of had the right sort of silly, gross, you know, fun factor. It was, you know, we had safety goggles that started out clear, and you can see by the end of the episode they're dyed red, and we were just sort of shocked by that because the fake blood, just the fake blood being on the lenses, was enough exposure to dye them red, completely red. And it was like,
How long
Pretty
did that
sure
take-
these were clear when
How
we
long did
started.
that take to get off of you guys?
It was one of those things where this happens a lot with Immersion, where you go home, you're like, oh my God, finally. And like you take a shower, you get everything off you, and then 4 days later, someone's like, what's that in your ear? You know, or like, oh my God, are you bleeding? And I'm like, son of a bitch.
Marcus, do you remember the discussion that we had when you showed me the ambulance? I was amazed. I love when Marcus does vehicle stuff. I don't know why. It's just like, because I feel like we were never capable of doing that stuff. And like for Laser Team, when you got us a cop car and army jeeps and things like that, it was just having those on set or in the parking lot at the stage was really cool. And you showed me the ambulance. I was like, oh, this is incredible. And it had branding on the side that you had made.
Yeah.
And then you open the back, and everything in the back was covered in plastic tarp. Like,
even the people that were willing to play ball with us, and work on our shoot, you have to kind of divulge what you're doing, because otherwise you'll end up with damage, and then you'll have to explain it later, and it'll be just like bad. So we were like trying to go through the thing, and they're like, oh, these things have seen it all, and I was like, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
you know
when you showed
us.
me the plastic tarp, I go, you covered everything in like form-fitting tarp, and you were like, yeah, it's gonna get really gross in here. And I said, grosser than a regular ambulance? And he goes, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can kind of see in the episode, me and all the effects team members are kind of behind camera, and the ambulance is really small, a very small place for us to kind of hide out in, and everyone's kind of cramped back there, kind of locking arms, trying not to fall over, because there's no real handles, and one of us is pumping blood, and the other one's making the lungs go, and
We have a camera guy and a sound person back there too.
yeah, so there's 5 of us. Yeah, 5 of us that were behind, our camera and our whole, I guess the whole unit in there. And it was a little nuts. And I think Burnie was driving for some of it, and then I was driving.
No, I drove for all the takes.
Yeah.
Bernie
yeah.
drove for everything but the drone footage, and then you.
And then
I
that
had to
was
fly the
me.
drone.
Yeah, I got to drive. It was
You,
fun.
you
It was
couldn't
fun to
fly a
drive.
drone and drive an ambulance at the same
Got 2
time.
hands.
No, remember that when I smashed the drone into the building? It was that day, right?
It was the next morning.
Next morning, because
Yeah.
it arrived while I was on set. I was like, ooh, next time I'll have this drone that we can shoot with. It's way better. 12 hours later, smashed straight into the building on the first flight, so.
I remember because it was a different drone or like a new firmware, there was like a no-flight issue where we were, and you couldn't get it to actually take off.
Correct.
You had to do an update, and then I assume I lost interest and walked off while it was still on the ground. And then I talked to you later, and I was like, oh, did you ever get it to take off? And you're like, it's in pieces. I broke it already.
It's been
We
destroyed.
left a really big we had to hose out the ambulance, and so we were getting everything clean, and we were on a piece of the studio property where there's a shared hose between two different people that rent the same. I guess it's a shared hose, but it's kind of connected to their building. So I think another production came out and caught us like cleaning out the ambulance, and it was like body parts are sort of strewn about the parking lot, and we had the hose out, and they were just kind of like scratching their heads, and they're film industry people, so they kind of understood, but
There was a lot of blood.
at some point they were like, you guys got to wrap this up, And I was like, all right. So I was that, Dennis Quaid guy, just hosing down the parking lot, something strange. Left a huge pink stain too that was around for like 2 weeks. So.
But speaking of awesome art design, I checked out the Fortnite immersion 2 days ago during prep. Who was there yesterday at the immersion?
Nice.
Nice. Do we have, or Blaine, Marcus, Will?
Yeah,
do you
we
all
have some
wanna talk
pictures.
about that?
We're gonna have to cut the stream for.
One.
Yeah.
We've also done the Hitman one. We did the Space Invaders one, and we did this one. What am I missing?
Last of Us.
Last of Us one. That's right, in Australia, in Sydney. Yeah. So one of the things, 2 things I love about Immersion. One is that it's a testament to one of the things that I love about RTX is getting everyone who watches the shows to come out and be in the shows. I think in the first one we had about 300 extras in that one, and it's one of my favorite traditions at RTX to do some kind of big shoot. And then the other thing I love about it is just like, these are things we put down on paper that like we know we're never gonna get done. There's no way we're gonna make this episode until we find like a sponsor or somebody who then basically funds an entire season of Immersion. You can always tell when we have a new season of Immersion, we get a sponsored video, and then we have like 5 more episodes. Because we basically just burn through the budget before Matt tells us to spend it anywhere else. So.
Well, these are pretty great because, like, you know, they come to us and they're like, hey, we want, you know, some big ideas. And we give them, like, pie in the sky, like, I want to build a fort, and I want 100 zombies attacking it. And then they're like, yeah, we like that. Let's do that. And we're like, oh, okay. So, like, they give us the opportunity to just go fucking wild with it. Yeah, and stress Marcus out and take years off his
Usually
life.
the shock wears off, and then I go, okay, we can do this. So.
But a huge shout out, I mean, you know, and this definitely happened when Daniel started taking over, but like, and when Marcus joined, but Art has just been killing it. Like, you know, Immersion, the biggest part of it is you step on the set. Yeah, big round of applause to Art department.
Thank you.
The biggest part of, you know, this show is to have the lab rats, you know, Michael and Gavin come on the set and to feel like they're in the game. And I mean, I think you guys can say, like, you step on it, it's like, it looks like you're in Fortnite. It looks like you were in Last of Us. You know, like, it's really like you're in the game, and you guys have been killing it, so.
Yeah, who's here from live action and art department? Anybody here? Anybody?
Marcus.
Is that Jessica over there? Anybody?
I see some. But yeah, we have a really great crew. We have a core group of about 5 people, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, and it's not, but we kind of expand and contract as needed. So as productions come along and we have multiple productions or just one, we sort of get bigger and smaller. So we have lots of people that help us, and Stephanie Ard is my coordinator and does a lot for us, so give her a shout out.
And, I mean, and you guys work on every show just about at this point. I mean, you guys are even doing stuff with Achievement Hunter for Shenanigans, where you build a desk that goes up to the ceiling or something like that.
Yeah, so, we're company-wide, so anybody can kind of decide that they need something that's beyond normal or something that somebody in-house can build in the group.
Yeah.
And Marcus, it's hard for Marcus to say no sometimes.
Oh, shit, that, Marcus, it reminded me, Gavin and I came up with something that we wanted to ask you, but we'll do it after this.
Okay.
Okay. My favorite part is...
It says, you'll see it.
One of my favorite things at work is walking into Marcus's office and him just saying, oh no.
Well, walking into Marcus's office, camera in hand.
Yeah, that's usually the clue.
Marcus.
Because like if you guys just came around, I'd be like, hey guys, and it's usually like there's 4 iPhones on me before the door gets halfway open, and I'm like, uh-oh, this is gonna be. It's usually pretty fun. So
I like leaning on art department because then we can come up with. It's just like I want to do Rainbow Six and I want these guys to jump through walls and I don't know how that's gonna work. And Marcus is like, oh, that's simple. Just some balsa wood. We're good. You know, paint it, make it look nice, and then it's done. So that's really great.
there's some go-to materials for stuff like that. So it's always nice when I can sort of, you know, instantly sort of figure out your problem without a whole lot of effort. I'm always like, oh, okay, good. There was fast deflection there.
I think one of the hardest things you had to do for Destructibles was find the right size pots.
Yeah.
Those are hard to find.
Why they? You just bought those?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a lot, you know. Like,
he started a ceramic shop.
Yeah.
And built them all uniform.
Like primitive technology guy. Like.
It's a lot.
I like that Daniel said they're very, very hard to find, so we destroyed 1,000 of them, basically.
No one will ever have them.
They're way harder to find now.
I have another favorite moment from that immersion was when you'd made the doors, the windows out of balsa wood that we had to jump through. And I jumped through mine, I smashed through, and Michael jumped through, but somehow only his back came out.
I went in like sideways, it got stuck, and then pushed like ass out to come out, and it just came out like this.
I gotta say, and in the first episode from that one, Jeremy hit his wall, and it was just solid 2x4s. He bounced. He was committed. He really went for that wall.
Jeremy was like somebody went like this to him. Bink.
Yeah, and partially, so that joke came out of 2 things. One was necessity in the fact that we could only make, I think it was 3 balsa wood doors, and we had 4 real ones, and then we needed like 3 and then an extra in case it didn't work, which we used because we had to get the Phantom out for Gavin's jump through it again. So you actually jumped through the door twice. But then it also came out of just like making we always try to make the first members episode just a little different. I was just like, I want Jeremy to run into a door. that was it.
Well, the worst part, Jeremy had seen them go through the balsa wood once, so he had this false sense of confidence.
Yeah, he was all psyched up for it too. He was like, "This is gonna be great."
They would
man.
splat.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh."
It's good when you commit.
And then we were even having the discussion. It's like, okay, we have a balsa wood wall and we have an actual wood wall. We want to have Jeremy hit the wood wall. I go, why not Adam? And they go, well, Adam might go through it.
Yeah, it would make sense because then then both of you would go, both of them would make it through, and there's not a whole lot of like interest there. You're just
Be like
oh,
the
yeah.
Viking Kool-Aid man.
I feel like Adam would have missed the wood wall and just gone straight through the concrete if we hadn't showed him.
He kept running and hit the wall
Smash
outside.
here.
Through a couple cars in the parking lot.
Are there any games that you guys wish you could do that you haven't been able?
I want to bring this up on the panel because I've mentioned it before in passing, I think on the podcast, that when we go into these tests, we have a pretty good track record of, okay, we want to do this, we think it'll be cool, but we'll get out there and see if it works, and we'll shoot it, and we'll see if we have an episode. And there has been one time where we tried something, and it didn't work, and we never put that episode out, because it just didn't work. It didn't work the way we were hoping it would work. And so every time we put out a new episode of Immersion, they always talk about that one was the one that got canceled, or that's the lost episode of Immersion. But that one was actually our Skyrim episode of Immersion that we never put out because I wanted to have a Fuzzro Da in real life, and I wanted to get jet engines that could blast Michael and Gavin through the air. And I said it has to be like 15, 20 feet or it's not worth it. And we talked about everything, like putting you guys on the back of a boat, a speedboat, going 100 miles an hour and then popping a parachute and getting you yanked off that way. Or we talked about a lot of different things. Then we hired a stunt crew to do it, and they said it can't be done with air jets. We'll have to do it with like high-speed hurricane fans and a bunch of them. And I was like, no, we just get like a big like puffer jet. We can build some of the compressed air that hits them. And the stunt guy goes, yes, but the amount of force that you would need to lift a person is greater than the amount of force that it would take to hurt them by hitting them with compressed air. And I asked the question I learned not to ask a professional stuntman, which is like, well, how hurt?
I think he actually used the phrase, it will blow their skin off.
Or it will liquefy their organs.
Yeah,
that was the other one.
I think it was rupture your internal organs, I think was the.
So we tried it with the fans, and it just wasn't up to our standards.
It was windy.
It was windy.
It was a blustery day.
Yeah. So it wasn't quite what we were hoping for. So that's the episode that we never put out. So to answer your question, I would love to blast Michael and Gavin with air cannons at some point in the future.
I'd love to do it and not get my guts liquefied. That'd be cool. That'd be pretty cool. I want to do a Rocket League, man. Driving a car and like hitting a ball.
All right.
Are you kidding me? Like a giant soccer ball?
Well, and I'll propose this to the audience too, but it's like the problem with that one, we thought about that. We went back and forth on that one, but we've seen it. And like sometimes Immersion has that problem of like, oh, Top Gear did it or Mythbusters did it. And I wonder, it's like, should we do it anyway? You know?
See, that's a Daniel problem. Michael just wants to drive the car real fast and hit a ball. You know what I mean? You said, what do I want to do?
Daniel problem.
Not what's a great idea.
Biggest problem there is Gavin's never driven a car.
Wow, it's the perfect time for him to find out, you know?
I do want to do an Immersion where the build-up to the test is Gavin learning how to drive.
There we go.
Yeah.
So one we haven't talked about is the Mass Effect one, guys. And leave it to John Reisinger to give Gavin a fat lip a week before Laser Team 2.
That was awful.
The paintball.
Well, I know there was like a big discussion on the helmets on how they kept fogging up. It was like, man, these helmets keep fogging up. We need to be able to see their faces. Why don't we just cut a hole out in the mouthpiece so they could breathe? And somehow a paintball went in there from like 60 feet away
He's
into
threading
my mouth.
the needle, I mean, just perfectly in.
Dead-Eye Rising nails me.
4 days before Laser Team started production.
I was on the set of Laser Team. I think I was with Marcus and Matt or one of them, and we were like on our sets and everything, and I get this text from Burnie, this frantic group text to me and Matt, and just like, guys, Gavin, you might want to bring it up, but it's just like, Gavin got hit with a paintball on Immersion, and then it's like 30 minutes later, don't worry, he's okay.
Well, I remember Hullum showed up to set after that happened, and I was like, this is it. I'm fired. Like, this is it.
My lip was so fat. The scariest part was I didn't know how injured I was because I was wearing a mask, so I felt pretty invincible, and all of a sudden it just blasted my face, and my mouth filled up with liquid and chunks.
Go ahead.
So I was like, it's either blood and teeth, or it's just paint and the outside of a paintball. So I was just like spitting it into the helmet, and then I was trying to count my teeth with my tongue. So I was just like stood there hanging off this wire. I was like, all right, I guess I'm all right. Ow! I guess I'm fine though. And then my lips swelled up.
Reisinger felt like shit the whole day. Like, I was like, hey, don't kill another actor. He was like,
I mean, that's always the thing, is when someone hurts someone else and they're actually all right, the victim's all right, the person who did it will always feel so guilty, especially when there's like a hideous facial lump in play. So I was just like, I just had to go up to Reisinger. I was like, don't worry about it, I'm fine. Don't feel bad.
It wasn't that coherent. You're like,
Yeah, I was like,
I'll be okay. I've never felt guilty putting you two in danger.
I felt bad when I kicked Mariel in the face.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She was laying on the floor and I couldn't see. I'm sorry.
We should continue. We should finish the story, but we have about 11 minutes left, so let's open it up to a quick Q&A.
Yeah.
But you can go back to talking
microphones
about
over here if
kicking
you wanna
people
line
in the
up.
face.
No, I mean, I kicked her right in her face. That was pretty much it. It's very hard to see with those camera angles.
What you're saying about like not worrying about putting them in danger, I mean, the Mass Effect episode is an example of that. Not that we were hoping they were gonna get shot, but they showed up on set, and it's like, okay, here's these wire rigs that we're gonna use to fly you around the room. Normally people go through about 80 hours of training and about 6 months of practice to work these things. We're just gonna walk you through it real quick.
Yeah.
So they got like a 5-minute talking to, and then they're flying around inside the warehouse.
Also, usually when you're getting shot at with paintballs, you're like, I'm going to run out of the way. And they're like, except you can't move. You're just going to go this way, and then you're going to go that way. And you're going to get lit up when you do it.
That was on Blaine's watch, not mine. So.
Yeah.
You guys did really good. I was actually pretty surprised. I didn't know what, you know, we set this stuff up, but there's always an element of the unknown that I can't do anything about.
Yeah.
That I always lose sleep over, and you know, anybody who thinks we don't take safety seriously, we do. It's just there's things that I can't control sometimes. So
I would argue the only people really are me and Gavin that are like, nah. Everybody else is like, idiots. Stop.
Don't flip the car over. Yeah.
All right, let's start some questions, guys. Let's start over here.
Hi, so we've seen you guys work with a number of different things, fire, giant rigs, toy guns. Is there anything in particular that you like using most? Something that's dear to your heart that you like to
Burnie
build your
likes
immersions
tasers.
What do I like?
You like
he
tasers?
does.
No, tasers. Actually, my favorite piece of equipment is video goggles that we can use to change perspective, because that's a big part of video games to me. And it also shows how far things have come since we started Immersion 8 years ago now, or 7 years ago. You know, the first ones we did were the side-scrolling Mario one. Those were like, we had to buy those, I remember, out of an airplane catalog, like an air mall, these video goggles. But now with like VR and Google Cardboard, now we can get a pair of really cool video headsets they're very easy to find. Yeah. The thing we had for Mario was just ridiculously just like rigged together.
It's like super latency too, so like it was really delayed. But on these ones, it's pretty good refresh rate.
The challenging part about those video goggles is actually the distance that you can transmit and get the transmission. So in Resident Evil, we had these walls in between us and the 10 camera angles, and we could only get that up to like 1080, and we had to have amplifiers or whatever, like every 30 or 40 feet to make the transmission go into the recording booth.
The split screen one was tough too.
Well, that's what I was saying, crazy, even just the last couple of years. Like, we did the paintball split screen. It worked, but it was awful. Like, it was super buggy, constantly stopping and restarting, fixing the wires. It was super hard. 2-3 years later, that Resident Evil thing was like 100 times better. Like, the technology was insanely better.
Same thing with Pac-Man. We had the same issue. Just you guys like looking from the bird's eye view.
I'll go over here. Next question.
Hi. Okay, I have two really short questions. Would you ever consider doing a Grim Eclipse immersion somehow? And also, would you ever consider like partnering up with Game Lab, the YouTube Red series?
I think I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Matt Pat is Matt. You talking about Matt Pat show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on the podcast a couple times too. It's like just living in different places. It's hard to collaborate. But what was your first question about?
If we would do a Grim Eclipse or
Grim Eclipse.
a Ruby immersion.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. We'd have to come up with a good idea for
Me
it.
and Blaine have actually talked about one. We won't go into too much detail, but the hard part with that is that everything's a weapon and it's dangerous.
Yeah. Have you seen the show? It's kind of hard.
It's like everything turns into a giant blade that can cut your head off, and it's also a gun. So it's kind of, and I personally have an aversion to guns, but so that's kind of the challenge with Ruby, but it would be a visually interesting one to say the least.
I also think this is one of those things we'd have to do justice to, you know,
Right.
and that would, usually when we have a little more money than usual, it's on a sponsored one, and that kind of gives us the ability to do a little more than usual. So if it's kind of on us, we'd have to do it justice, you know, and I feel like we'd have to take that one real serious, real careful. Especially since everything is created, you know, like there's not a single thing in that universe that we could use that's in the real world, really. You know, like a lot of that's, like the whole world's custom, the whole universe is. So that would be a big one. I would love to do it, but yeah, that would be one we'd want to craft carefully.
Yeah.
This is for Michael and Gavin. Out of all the stuff that you've done in Immersion, what would be like your favorite job to have for the rest of your life?
Hitman.
Yeah, I feel like you shanking Shannon with that knife 16 times was like the best time you've ever had in your life.
I was having fun, I'll be honest. 47 has to enjoy his job sometimes.
You like Hitman too, Kev?
Hitman was good.
All right, so kind of along the lines of a possible Rocket League immersion, if that ever is possibly a thing. I know we did see it with Matt Pat, but it could be possible to maybe put y'all's own spin on it and maybe do sort of a throwback with the third-person driving aspect. And I think that
So
might be kind
you
of
actually want them to die, don't you?
just Gavin.
So
Gavin.
wait, let me get this straight. We have to teach Gavin to drive. Put him into a car with a rocket attached to it, and then change the camera perspective.
He's got a point.
That sounds fun.
The game is third person.
Daniel, can I pitch an idea at you?
Yes, you
so
may.
This is for a new game that just came out called Battlegrounds. So I'd like to simulate the blue ring in Battlegrounds by having Gavin and Michael work in smaller and smaller spaces next to each other at work, to where when they come to work one day, they're all working on the same desk on top of each other to see if they actually then try to kill each other.
So you just want us to both be in a coffin? Is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
pretty much. I want you guys both in a closet, and then we'll forget about you.
Sounds good.
Hey, so I had a question, and if Marcus could chime in too, and it's like a pre-production thing. So how do you guys do location scouting and going about finding cool spots, especially for the Fallout immersion? And then, you know, and Marcus, what's your role in going into those locations? Who do you work with to like decorate them? And
Yeah,
get
they
them
found a
ready for
Blood
camera?
Gulch canyon. I mean, that thing, it felt like standing in Blood Gulch in that quarry. It was really weird.
Well, so far, I mean, a lot of this is actually personal experience. Before this, I worked for Troublemaker Studios and was out at a lot of different locations. I also did commercial art direction, so just national television commercials. Saw a lot of locations there too. So when we get in a real pinch, we call a locations person, you know, a person that does just that. And we kind of give them a specific request, tell them what we're looking for. And since they have a little more experience than we do, they give us like a photo gallery. It has a bunch of pictures and we can look at them. But Blood Gulch was somewhere that I had shot before, and Fallout was somewhere I had shot before as well. That guy actually rents props. All that stuff is out there, and it sort of, most of those buildings are full of items and old vintage appliances and, you know, all sorts of stuff.
Like that beer.
So, yeah, the beer. That beer was real. Like, all that stuff that was in there was basically that guy's, like, antique collection. So they just sort of cracked one open.
Cracks open a
Got
30-year-old
one.
beer.
Yeah, it was a 30-year-old beer, I think, at least. But, yeah, those particular locations I had personal experience with, and I just referred them to our production department. But, yeah, there is a lot of involvement with that. You know, the locations are important. We need things to look correct, and that's the easiest way to do it. You know, it's a lot easier for me to find somewhere that already sort of looks like what we need as opposed to building it from scratch. So, yeah, locations are super important, and, yeah, it's a huge part of my job.
Two things. One is an observation. You guys are awesome. Two, one of my favorite games ever of all time is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I was wondering, like after the Mass Effect video, you guys kind of demonstrated like how the physics and stuff would work using the harness and the rope and everything like that. I was curious as if you guys would ever attempt to do a Star Wars video. I've noticed that there is no Star Wars video, at least as far as I've seen in Immersion.
Well, there is
actually.
We did a Star Wars Battlefront jetpacks, but you didn't watch that because Michael and Gavin weren't in it.
It was Blaine and Chris, so nobody watched it.
Exactly.
Then I need to go home and watch that after this. That sounds awesome.
But yeah, I mean, you don't have to convince me to do Star Wars stuff. You guys just.
Yeah, I think that's all of us.
I also like Coder because it's BioWare, so it's also like Mass Effect where it's like a conversation. Like I want to walk up to a guy and then I'll just cut you with a lightsaber. It's like recreate the Fallout immersion, but make it Star Wars plus harnesses and lightsabers. I think Marcus can do it. I have faith.
I mean, you know, anything's possible. As long as you guys throw me the money,
you
we'll
make
fine.
it and I'll show up and be in. That's how this relationship works.
One more quick one.
Marcus, what was your favorite pop that you've ever made for Immersion?
Oh, for Immersion, huh? Oh, God. I got so many things now. I think just dealing with the Warthog in general and setting all that up and working with our effects guys and getting all that engineered and working. I know I guess it's kind of a prop, you know. I think that was the most interesting for me probably so far. Had the most sort of challenge attached to it. So yeah, that's probably my vote.
Let's try to sneak one more in. Go. One more quick one.
For Marcus, what's the most difficult job you've been asked to do for Immersion?
Oh wow, that might be the same answer actually. Yeah.
Bernie, how long did you want to flip that Warthog for?
Yeah, we talked about it a lot. Like I remember specifically saying to Marcus, it's when you came up with the device that yanks it over. I was like, can we get it on the car so the car flips itself over? And Marcus goes, yeah, for like another $1.5 million. Sure, we could do that. Yeah, so it was like, that one was a tough one, but one that we wanted to do for a really long period of time.
Yeah. That one was good too. And I knew that it was special to you. So it was like the kind of thing that I knew I had to take serious. And I couldn't, you know, a lot of times I'll laugh things off. I'm like, oh, we can't do that. You know, it's like, I don't know. That sounds, let me let the shock wear off. And then I'll come back to you in 10 minutes. And then we'll try to figure this out. But
and then I made it harder by using that as an excuse to make a car chase sequence in the first
No, it was
half.
good. I like that little
and
cinematic.
blow it up.
It felt great.
Yeah, it did not run when we shot that. We had to actually.
Yeah,
fix it.
so everyone's like, what? Why did they do that to the Warthog? And I'm going to take shit for years on this one. I just know it. But it only went about 20 miles an hour, and it couldn't go any faster than that.
It's a bit of a piece of shit.
Yeah, it was a piece of shit.
I can tell why Bernie wanted to destroy it. So
It's a total turd. I mean, you know, we had to pay a mechanic to come out and assess all the damage, make it just run. It was like thousands of dollars just to get the poor thing to go 25. So, you know, it was old. It was rusted. It had been sitting before we ever got it. It was already kind of on the way out. The guy who had it before us was ready to get rid of it. It's the only reason we had access and got it for free was because he's like, I don't want this thing. You guys interested in this thing? So, but yeah, it was.
Well, and we couldn't have it any longer.
Yeah, they wouldn't let us have it.
The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, said you can't have this car because it's not rated to drive on the streets. So it could create, you know, air pollution or unsafe conditions. So we can't allow you to have this car. You got to get rid of it.
Steering wheels on the other side.
Yeah, and we said, okay, can we blow it up and set it on fire? They go, oh, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Anyway, we are out of time. Thank you for coming
Thanks,
out to the
everybody.
2017 Immersion panel. Thank you, everybody.